Hi everybody. Look, the intention here of today's call is essentially to have a conversation with Rob, and what we're going to be talking about today is, I don't know, everything digital, utilities, that kind of thing. Rob, so we're going to start off just a bit about your background. We're also then going to sort of dive a little bit into, I guess, your role and what Skewb's about, and then, you know, kind of veer it towards a bit of customer engagement type stuff, and then really just sort of freestyle. Sound good to you?
Sounds perfect. First time live, everyone. So give us a break if it's a bit glitchy. But yeah, go for it, Andy. Ready when you are.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So okay, so yeah, just give me a bit of background about your life before Skewb and Affinity. Before Skewb, and what made you say yes to the industry and the role that you're in today.
Yeah, no worries. So I joined the water industry fresh out of university. So like most people in the water industry, I think I probably fell into it by accident. It was a kind of stopgap when I first joined a water company in the east of England, and I was with that water company for almost 10 years. So joined as kind of a scheduler, worked through, and as I was leaving, working on kind of their DMEX improvement program. So from there, I learned kind of all the skills around customer engagement, really kind of understanding what makes our developer services customers tick, how we can look to make things better for them on their journey, really looking at, okay, how do we segment some of that journeys down to homeowners like you and I building something in our back garden compared to the large home builders such as kind of the big construction companies out there at the moment, and how we really support not only those but our self-lay providers and our NAVs in that area as well. And then I ended up at Skewb. So I've been with Skewb now for kind of 8 months.
Nice. And how's it going?
Yeah, so I absolutely love kind of what I do now. Get to work with lots of different companies, get to really understand kind of the utility sector at large. It's really interesting to look across sector at the different customer journeys and really learn best practice from not only within kind of the utilities industry, but outside in the likes of retail, for example. It's like the Amazon effect that I kind of bang on about a lot at the moment, but actually this mobile phone is become kind of key to our hearts, and we can go on there, click something in a second, and a parcel arrives at kind of our door. Customers expect that same sort of speed and service when they're doing things like developing. So how do we navigate all the difficulties and complexities of construction of water to meet the Amazon effect and expectations our customers have got?
Yeah, nice. I mean, I hear a lot about that, and you know, it's tech teams sort of launching separate projects versus them all being kind of joined up, you know, and obviously that makes it a bit of a fragmented customer journey sometimes. So in terms of that sort of customer engagement piece, I mean, what are some of the, you know, you've got a lot of expertise in that area, what are some of the challenges that yourself in your day-to-day role, but also Skewb are solving for like utilities clients and their customers?
So one of the big things is kind of that customer engagement piece, speaking to people at a time that's convenient to them in a way that's convenient to them is one of the big things. So that's not just kind of providing updates on their journey or things like that, but actually how do we get that feedback? How do we get that real-time feedback that, hey, I'm over here and I'm really unhappy about the service I've received, or the opposite end of the spectrum? How do we get those customers to raise that flag and say, I'm really happy over here and this is why, so that we can really use that feedback to drive improvements as we go through. There's nothing better than kind of focusing your customer transformation on real life customer feedback, and the way that kind of we're regulated in kind of getting that. How do we work within that kind of framework to get that feedback direct from customers in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I mean, would you say like the utilities industry as a whole is maybe relying on more sort of traditional methods of customer communication, and do you think you guys have really like caught up with, I guess, some of the sort of leading industries that we kind of see?
Yeah, so I think there's still work to do in that area, and I think there always will be, because technology is always changing, and actually there's more and more ways to engage with customers every single day. Twitter, Facebook, the likes, they're all there. I've seen kind of water companies and other utilities using Snapchat and TikTok to really kind of build that brand and really engage with people. And how do you kind of continue to do that? Because the younger generation are much more au fait with kind of the social media platforms and averse to kind of picking up the phone. That's a huge swing if you were to kind of look at some of the demographic that previously it would have all been done via telephone, via kind of a standard call center model. Now we're moving into kind of much more blended approach where social media, chatbots, text messaging platforms, online chat, all of those sort of things are all coming together, and actually it's a really kind of omni-channel presence that when we were talking to customers.
Yeah, no, so true. I mean, my girlfriend's friend, he actually won't pick up the phone, like point blank. So if I want to speak to him, it's normally, I'm locked out of, because they were living together. I'm locked out of the house. Can you let me in? If I call him up, he wouldn't pick up. So I'd always have to message him on WhatsApp. So, I think, do you think from a B2B perspective, because I know obviously being in developer services, a lot of the stuff you do is B2B. Do you think there's quite a big difference in terms of the opportunity with using these digital channels versus B2C? Or do you think there's, a lot of crossover?
So there's definitely a lot of crossover. I think for B2C, so definitely in kind of the developer world, our kind of multi-channel approach works better for kind of one-off homeowner customers like you or I that are actually they're doing some sort of development on the side of their project, and the rest of the time they're at work and they've got kind of a normal full-time occupation. So actually being able to receive a text message or quickly go onto the website and go on chat and kind of get someone to help via your internet provider, it is great, right? Because you can do that alongside doing all the other stuff that you've got to do in that day. I think for B2B, definitely for all this kind of omni-channel piece, actually it's very different in terms of how you engage with those. I think some of that's still traditional of like to have a kind of a record of an email conversation that I've had, or I like to engage through kind of your web portal. But I think we are slowly moving away from that traditional phone line conversation, because it's time consuming no matter who you are. So if you're kind of a site manager out on site full of mud, the easiest thing
zipping around the van,
that's it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it depends on sort of the complexity of what's been talked about. I mean, we do a lot of work customer service collections, and the phone is always going to be there, and you're never going to get rid of it, because that's how you're going to deal with a lot more of the complex type stuff. But I personally love the convenience of just being able to ping back and forth with an intuitive chatbot, or or an agent on a messenger type channel, just to get it sorted quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you say? What are some of the key metrics you're focusing on day to day? So you're doing obviously Skewb work with Webio on channels like SMS, for example. I mean, what are the main sort of business metrics that you're kind of improving and helping clients enhance? And I guess where are the opportunities for people in terms of core metrics to move the dial on?
Yeah, definitely. So the overarching metric is DMEX, so developer measure of experience. So essentially that's kind of done by our regulator and looks at kind of our customer satisfaction overall. And there's kind of two halves of that. One's kind of doing jobs within kind of our time frame, and the other half is kind of the true raw satisfaction of that customer's journey with that. And then when you kind of break that down, actually, okay, how's that customer's contact into the contact center that day, whether that be kind of chat, email, or traditional phone call, and how we can really have a bit of a pulse on that and how that's going, but then also kind of work completion. So after we've completed a part of their journey, how well did that piece of the journey go for you, so that we can really pick up on the things that don't go so well, but also the things that do go so well. Because by picking up on the stuff that doesn't go so well, we avoid kind of that complaint, we avoid that kind of chase coming back in, we avoid that whole metric around failure and meeting failure. We kind of get rid of that before it even happens. And then the other side of it is, okay, well, we've got all this positive feedback now. How do we do the lessons learned on that sort of stuff and really capitalize on the good that we do, so that we can kind of drive that? And alongside all of that, right, we look at kind of the normal metrics of call volumes and kind of cycle time to kind of go back to customers, and all that kind of response time piece, and the traditional kind of call center metrics around average handle time and average wait time. All of those sort of things come naturally by having multiple channels and being able to kind of go back to those customers.
Got it. So would you say it's more, you know, slicing off 0.5% uplift here, you know, 1 or 2% uplift here, you know, reducing a metric in a good way, say reducing call volumes by 1 or 2% here, and obviously laying on top of each other compounded is a big impact? Or do you ever see, you know, key pain points being sort of knocked out of the park by like 40-50%?
Yeah, so probably a bit of both, to be honest. So it depends what kind of campaign we're going with and what kind of journey we're trying to provide to a customer. If it's customer satisfaction, it's really, that's a difficult one to kind of link them back to.
Yeah.
Is that a phone call that we saved? Is that an email? Is that any sort of contact we saved? But ones where we're pushing out an update to a customer, actually we can link that directly to say, we've absolutely removed the need for a customer to contact us the day before their connection, because 2 days before, what lands on their phone? A text message saying, hey, it's X water company, we're coming to meet your connection at this date, and fantastic, off they go. They've had it, so they don't need to chase it. It's all about that convenience piece. It's a sweet.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's basically predicting the predictable stuff which happens year on, year out, maybe on a seasonal basis, or, you know, once a new client comes on board, customer comes on board, XYZ is, you know, always going to happen in these times. So being able to sort of predict that. A common one we see is, you know, sending out sort of annual statements around someone's account. It normally comes a time where either they get the statement and then they call up because they've got questions. So you can actually predict that, and actually you send a statement, but then you also send all the answers to the questions that they're going to ask on say SMS or something. Or you actually just do it all on a messaging channel such as SMS. You know, or like offering them other inbound channels to get those queries sorted, but being able to predict stuff, and it just drives a lot of that unnecessary volume at the call center. Yeah,
definitely. I think anything that you can provide in like a serviceable way has got to be a win, right? If you can go to your mobile phone and have that information without needing to ask for it, what better customer journey is there than not needing to ask? Yeah.
So I'm kind of, so Skewb, look, you guys don't just do the sort of customer engagement piece. Actually, there's a whole range of areas you're involved with in utilities and sustainability. Yeah, what other kind of successes and stuff is, you know, Skewb involved with in the world?
Yeah, totally. So I think I won't kind of concentrate on all the things that Skewb do, because we'll be here for a while. Essentially work across kind of the utility sector, solving kind of complex problems and really working on kind of deliverability. So whatever we commit to do, how can we make sure that that happens to the best of our ability and kind of beyond? So one of the things that I will kind of mention is around kind of Skewb Climate. So Skewb Climate is looking at how we work in a really sustainable way to drive change across not only the utilities industry but wider. So my colleague Ruta has been kind of looking at how we use kind of collaboration with a platform called Minecraft to really drive, okay, how do we teach about kind of carbon monoxide? How do we teach about climate change in a kind of grassroots way of teaching kids in a way that works for them, getting them to interact with the journey, and kind of looking at how we kind of push that out, which is something to really be proud of actually how we're making that step change in that place. And then the second part is just around kind of Skewb and kind of our platforms there, looking at kind of street work completely differently. Kick off dogs in the background. Hope you can.
Hey, look, it wouldn't be a LinkedIn Live. A, with a bit of a shaky start with me not knowing how LinkedIn Live works properly, but also a dog in the background. So
there we go, they've gone. So yeah, how we kind of look at streetworks and how we maximise some of the efficiencies to be made there, and really look at kind of minimising issues, and then really like how we partner with people across the industry to really deliver the best results for not only kind of our customers as in clients, but also the end customer at the end of this. So that community that's impacted, how do we maximise on some of that?
Nice. No, I mean, I've always noticed the business is very purpose driven, and I think, you know, look, we're all trying to make money, obviously, as companies and individuals, but actually having that core purpose which people, like, you know, buy into, and it's aligned with the values of the employees, it really sort of shines through. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, and just look, the last question really, I mean, actually, I'm sorry, two more questions. So if someone was considering getting into developer services and or sort of digital engagement space, working with companies like you do, what would sort of be your advice?
So I think it's really important to know kind of your end customer inside out. It's really important to know kind of that true persona. Okay, so what are their needs? What are their wants? What's kind of their attitude, and kind of what's their background? And I think it's really important that you do that customer segmentation piece and not try to force fit a solution just because you think it's a good idea. So actually, if we really do that true customer segmentation piece and have our quadrants and our customer segmentation, okay, well, what tool is going to work best for which person and across the journey, especially when you kind of launch some sort of new kind of channel spaces, it's really easy to kind of go crazy and be like, actually, we'll have all these things, we'll tell them everything, and actually it becomes an annoyance. So how do you offer something, especially digital wise, without imposing it? I think it is really key, and how you do it for the best benefit. So how you really deliver results, what are you trying to get from it, how are you going to get it, and really starting in that space before you kind of jump into solution mode, which is hard for me because I naturally kind of jump to the end sometimes, and I have to kind of reel myself back and start at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's exactly why I wanted to get you on the call, because yeah, you just, you know, having worked with you, you know what you're talking about. Yeah. So last question: what is something that we don't know about Rob Upton, for example? Whether it's what you like doing in your spare time or whatever.
Geez, Andy, this is a curveball.
It is a curveball at the end. Is a curveball at the end.
Yeah, so something that I kind of default to in these interesting story moments is back in kind of my uni days, is I spent a year in Pennsylvania in America, and
nice.
As part of that, I ended up working in a maximum security prison, teaching English. So worked with some really interesting characters, really valuable experience.
Yeah, that must have been. Yeah, that must have been awesome on so many levels. But it's the kind of experience I can imagine, like, looking back. Okay, look, I tell you what, I'll say something that people don't know.
There we go.
Given that we're talking about gap years or whatever, so I spent 3 months in the Belize jungle, you know, trekking through virgin territory, tracking jaguars for conservation reasons with infrared cameras to track them, and building like bridges for researchers to get through. And again, it's this thing, I found an old photo which I put up on my mirror of us with machetes, which is a bit alarming, Andy with a machete, but it was, you know, it was all safe. We're instructed by like his ex-Marine Corps guy. And yeah, just looking back, you know, it's such a great experience. And actually I really aspire to get back into the jungle somehow. So I'm going to make that happen.
Very cool. Very cool. So how many jaguars did you actually track in the end then? Was it kind of a big thing?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of things about jaguars. So that we were surrounded by jaguars all the time, but we couldn't really see them. So at night, because we would change camps, at night you'd see their paw marks through the camp.
Okay.
And also the mini tracks we were cutting on machetes to then put their infrared cameras either side of the little tracks. The reason why that attracted jaguars because they're quite lazy animals, and if they see a little path already, you know, created, they'll go through that. So we got like about 6 jaguars on these cameras where I'd take the picture of them going past. I never like came face to face with one, unfortunately. Although when I was reading my book in my hammock, one sort of lazy, well, there was never really a lazy afternoon, but one break, I heard a rustling in the bushes, and just like on the cartoons where they're like suspense, I was like, what is that? And then suddenly a tapir ran at me, which is like this kind of like giant sort of hippo anteater looking thing. And then it legged it off at right angles. So that was pretty scary.
At least it was only that though, right? It could have been
exactly. Or it could have been the peccary, which are like herds of these like wild boar things, which you just got to like leg up a tree to get out of the way. Bit different to working in a remote office like I am now.
Nice and cushy. LinkedIn Live's got nothing on you.
Exactly. I'll put that on my gratitude list. Hey, thank God I'm not getting chased by a wild boar.
There you go, done.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for joining me today, Rob. I really appreciate it. And you know, I've had some technical issues with getting this first LinkedIn Live, but we made it. And yeah, been great working with you, and I'm looking forward to the future of what we can do together.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. Same and likewise.
Good man. All right, take care.
You too. Take care.
Thanks a lot, man. Bye.
Bye bye.